Hey everyone, Ashley here with my new best bud, Charlie. You may recognize Charlie from the Anatomy and Physiology lab. Charlie's taken on a freeloader status, and he/she is now a permanent resident of my parents' guest bedroom to wait out the COVID-19 pandemic. But since Charlie's here with me, they have graciously volunteered to help us learn some anatomy. So we're going to go through the exam study guide for the respiratory system today. So I also just want to say, and I genuinely mean this, I miss all of you. I hope you are all healthy. I hope your families are healthy. I hope you're doing okay emotionally and mentally through everything that's going on right now. And I am here for all of you. If you need to talk, if you need to vent, whatever you need, please reach out. I am here. And again, I really do genuinely miss you all. This is absolutely no fun recording this lecture in a random bedroom tonight. So let's go through the respiratory system. The first item on the study guide is the ribs. So looking here from the internal surface, we can see a number of the ribs counting up through. And the ribs here we know are coming back and they're connecting here to the sternum. And the sternum here connecting out to the clavicle. So the top very edge here, this is the clavicle. And coming around to the front side here, we can see the clavicle as well. If we go back up to the chest here, the clavicle would come in and interact right here. So they've cut it at this point of the diagram. So together with, we have again the clavicle, we have the sternum, and we have the ribs, and these are all going to be really protective components of these internal organs. So we know that these are going to protect the respiratory system organs, particularly the lungs and all the underlying vessels, of course, protecting the heart here as well. And of course, there's going to be some limited movement in these areas as well when inhalation and exhalation occur. Next on your study guide list is the diaphragm. The diaphragm is shown right here. The diaphragm separates the chest and the abdominal cavity, or the thoracic and the abdominal cavity, from each other. And the diaphragm is going to undergo some pretty dramatic changes when you inhale and when you exhale. So when you inhale, it undergoes this process where it flattens and it contracts. And when you exhale, it's going to undergo this process where it relaxes and the air are going to get pushed out of the lungs. So that is our diaphragm. The next thing on your study guide list are the external and internal intercostal muscles. So here, we'll pull this guy a little closer to the lights. It's getting a little dark in here where I'm filming. Okay, so here we've got a couple of things marked. We've got an M21 and an M22. And so if you notice here, you'll see they run in opposite directions. So one is running out and one here is running in. So this is more external muscle is the external intercostal. So again, here that's labeled as M21. And here then is your internal intercostal. And again, here this is labeled with an M22. M on this diagram is, this figure is always for muscle. Okay. So next on our list then, what we have, oh, I'm sorry, I should tell you what they're for. So the external intercostals are for forced air inhalation. So forced and quiet, they call it inhalation, meaning that we're going to be raising the ribs to expand the chest cavity. So again, that is our external, or M21. And then our internals, or our M22s, are going to be for forced exhalation. So again, forced inhalation, forced exhalation. All right. Next on our list, we have the sternocleidomastoid. Unfortunately, what they've done with this particular model to show you better the muscles and structures of the neck is that they've cut the sternocleidomastoid. So the sternocleidomastoid, if I put this back together real quick, hold on 1 second. Sorry for the nauseous-inducing spiral. All right, we'll just leave it like that. The sternocleidomastoid, if you break that word down, sternum, cl for clavicle, mastoid for mastoid process, which is way back here, means that we're looking for something that originates at the sternum and the clavicle. If you notice, you've got a cut muscle back here and then a muscle right here. And then that would curl all the way up and around, and it would come back here to where it's marked as M6, muscle 6. And this is where that mastoid process would be if we could see down to the skull. And again, that would curl all the way around and it would come down to this point. Part of that being marked here with M14. So the sternocleidomastoid is an accessory muscle in breathing. The other one that we want to point out is the scalene. So the scalene here is indicated with M10. It's actually a grouping of 3 muscles together. So if you notice here, there's this little cluster. We can kind of count them like 1, 2, 3 in the back. So the scalene actually has those 3 components. They call them the anterior, the middle, and the posterior scalene. So again, anterior, middle, posterior scalene. So again, together, the scalene and the sternocleidomastoid with M6 are known as accessory muscles because they don't have the major acting force during respiration or breathing, but they do assist. They are an accessory to that process. So the scalene actually functions pretty much constantly kind of in the background. The sternocleidomastoid, again, is typically going to kind of rev up when you have like a really intense period of cardiovascular activity. So when you have a lot more respiration, you're going to see more activity from that muscle during respiration. Okay, so the next one then that we're going to cover on this part of the study guide is the pectoralis minor. So unfortunately, we have a pectoralis major, but the pectoralis minor is not shown in this particular model. Even if I flipped out the cavity right now, it's not there. So what would it look like? So what it would look like, if we could picture it, is that we'd have these kind of 3 like finger-like projections that would be coming down and through, and they would branch out and they interact at, I believe it's from ribs 3 to 5, and then they come back and it's going to interact at the scapula. And so that, again, would be right underneath this pectoralis major, which is marked with M15. So the pectoralis minor, one of the functions it's going to have is going to be, sorry, I missed it down for a second here. Also going to be contributing to breathing, particularly, we call it deep breathing. It's going to help with, particularly with inhalation. I'm getting ahead of myself. So deep breathing is going to be when we add in those abdominal muscles. So you might notice that Charlie has a lot of things. Charlie has no abdominal wall. So that's been entirely removed to show you the vital organs. So in this example, if the abdominal wall was present, it would be, of course, stretching across this whole region here, and we'd have those 4 abdominal wall muscles that would all assist with deep breathing. The 2 superficial ones, you remember, we would have first the rectus abdominis, which would be going linear and straight down, and then also on the external surface, the external oblique, which would be running in this direction. And then deep to that, you would have then 2 more internal muscles. So you'd have the internal obliques running in this direction, and you would have the transverse going in the opposite. So again, the rectus would go this way, and the transverse would go cutting that across, the transverse obliques. So obviously, I will not ask you to identify a muscle for the abdominal wall looking at this particular model, but you do want to be aware that those abdominal muscles can help with deep breathing. Okay, that is the end of study guide 1 for this first section. Because these uploads have been a little tricky, I'm going to break this into 4 parts, and I'll be back in just a minute here.